Many have raised questions about so-called faces in the smoke during 9/11. Now, while it's easy to point at smoke and give meaning to odd shapes that occasionally appear in smoke or clouds in any given situation and label it as this or that, or even Photoshop certain images and then attempt to pass it off as real, perhaps at times there is a little something more to this type of occurrence than meets the eye. Amongst the smoke during 9/11, pictures were taken of what looks like faces or entities of some kind, which are eerie to say the least. One of the faces has been compared to Rudolf Steiner's sculpture of the Zoroastrian deity Ahriman. In all fairness, the face does bear a remarkable resemblance. Ahriman is the malevolent demon of Zoroastrianism, like the devil of Christianity, only before Christianity. Zoroastrianism is of a dualistic nature, with the positive being Ahura Mazda, while the negative is Ahriman. This conflict involves the entire universe, including humanity, which has an active role to play in the conflict. Active participation in life through good thoughts, good words, and good deeds is necessary to ensure happiness and to keep the chaos at bay. This active participation is a central element in Zoroaster's concept of free will, and Zoroastrianism rejects all forms of monistism. Mazda will ultimately prevail over Ahriman, at which point the universe will undergo a cosmic renovation and time will end, which sounds to me like a prophecy of the coming Christ consciousness, eventually prevailing over the Antichrist consciousness. Now, you'll notice that Zoroastrianism rejects all forms of monistism, which is dedication to the spiritual only and not the physical. You may be prompted to ask why this might be. Well, the answer is simple. In layman's terms, our brains have two hemispheres. The right hemisphere is our creative and spiritual side of the brain that embodies qualities like the imagination and intuition, whereas the left is the side that deals with logic and mathematical formulas and all of concrete sensory-based materialism, so the physical. Now, Ahriman, the Antichrist, Lucifer, whatever you want to call it, seeks to keep us trapped in the left hemisphere, and this is pretty much a given. But there is a catch here. You see, if on the other hand you're wholly and completely dedicated to the right hemisphere, this only serves Ahriman's purpose, as your disconnection from the physical does nothing for those trapped in the physical. Apathy helps nobody, except Ahriman, as he cares not whether you are left-brained or right-brained, the yin or the yang, the black or the white. While we are in this dualistic world, a healthy balance is required between both your left and right hemisphere. You cannot simply ignore the physical and delude yourself into thinking that you're beating it by doing so. When it comes to faces in the smoke, you can take it or leave it, but given what Ahriman is and all the details of the 9/11 ritual, it seems a little too much for this face to be a coincidence. A synchronicity, certainly, but a coincidence? Nah. As we well know by now, Christ is the positive aspect of this dualistic collective consciousness, while the antithesis of Christ is the Antichrist negative aspect of the collective consciousness. Now, an honest look around the world will show you that, just as it has been prophesied time and time again, the Antichrist consciousness is on the rise and growing with each new soul it recruits. However, so is the Christ, as is evidenced by all of us beginning to wake up and expose the agenda of the Antichrist. This process, by which we gradually begin to embody the qualities of the Christ, has and always was going to happen and is inevitable, and the Antichrist consciousness knows this all too well, and always has. The bringing down of the towers is a direct war on Christ consciousness and an attempt to recruit us to Antichrist consciousness before the singularity occurs. That way, whoever is vibrating on an Antichrist vibration at the time of the singularity will become one with the Antichrist, whereas whoever is vibrating on the Christ frequency will become one with the Christ. The Antichrist planned the coming down of the towers to coincide with the coming of Christ consciousness awakening and an attempt to pull us away from it, using fear as its primary weapon to do so. You will find that in the book of Isaiah 30:26 it speaks of the return of the Christo, which is the Christ, and prophesies that at the return of the Christ the light of the sun and the moon will increase by 7 times. Furthermore, in Isaiah 30:25 it states that the light of the sun and the moon will increase after the towers fall. In other words, Christ consciousness arrives after the towers have fallen. The light of the sun and the moon increasing by 7 times can be taken literally, and perhaps there will be literal events of this nature. However, I feel there is a symbolic meaning behind this. If you take the sun and the moon to mean the two opposing principles of light versus dark, or good versus evil, and their light increasing 7 times as the 7 vows of Isis, or the 7 chakras, it would appear to mean that those vibrating on the frequency of Christ will shed the 7 vows of Isis and be at one with Christ, and those vibrating on the frequency of the Antichrist will shed the 7 vows and be at one with the Antichrist. It is therefore no wonder that the towers fell on September 11th, as scholars have been pinpointing the date of September 11th since the 80s as the birth date of Christ, which is exactly what took place on 9/11, the birth of the vortex into Christ and Antichrist consciousness. We know that the X, the swastika, the Xbox, and all of these symbols are the open portal, and also that the Xbox is in fact a pyramid. The pyramid with the chief cornerstone intact is of course the open portal, whereas the uncapped pyramid is the closed portal. The chief cornerstone is the vortex, the rainbow bridge, the cornucopia, whatever you want to call it, and as you can see here, it takes on this role due to the fact that it penetrates the fabric of space-time. Since we've established that, then what is the relevance of the double cross, or X? Well, the 0 point of the X is the vortex, or the portal, from where beings come through from other worlds into our world, be it through Earth stargates or the human third eye stargates. So, the dimensions meet at 0 point. This is why they call the checkered corridor the nexus. It is the nexus between the two dimensions. So the meeting of the two dimensions from the side would look like this. The two pyramids meet at their 0 points and then come together, hence the Seal of Solomon. Now, from the top down, the double cross is formed, and we have from this the 8-pointed star, or octagon, hence the double square or double cube. Based on this, we can make sense of a few symbols. For a start, the British flag is obviously a double cross symbol. Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man demonstrates the same process within the human being our own Stargate. This is the double cross of Lorraine, used by Freemasons. The Exxon logo makes no attempt to hide it as double cross. An umbrella embodies the double cross Stargate symbol. This is why umbrellas are universally a symbol of possession. And it is no wonder that Penguin in Batman, or Oswald, is so fond of umbrellas. The black sun symbol is obviously a double cross. The logo used for the Luxor Pyramid in Las Vegas couldn't possibly be any more revealing, and is clearly a Stargate symbol. This logo speaks for itself. The swastika is obviously the cross swirling around the vortex, and an obvious double cross. The rose is interchangeable with the cross, making the rose and the cross a double cross, hence this Masonic octagon with a rose in the middle. The skull is interchangeable with an X, so skull and crossbones is a double cross. Christ on the cross is a double cross. This makes sense of the phrase Xmas in place of Christmas. Knowing that these symbols always represent polarity, i.e. the meeting of two polar opposites, it would seem logical to assume that the other dimensions are polar opposite, i.e. we are matter, they are antimatter, we are warm-blooded, they're cold-blooded, we are mammals, so perhaps they're reptiles, etc. Who can say for sure, but what is certain is the fact that these Stargate portals exist within us and around the planet and universe and galactic centre. Polarity is the gate that opens the portal, hence a being emerging from the checkered floor. This is why Christ is seen here in the Baphomet pose. The Baphomet is the hermaphrodite, i.e. polarity. In this old Turtles episode, yet again, a Stargate portal is opened on top of the Twin Towers. The portal is opened using polarity and leads to a place called, surprise surprise, Dimension X. So, the double cross or double X, which of course forms the Masonic compass, is the meeting of two dimensions. Here is the double cross of the Vatican, the double cross of Scientology, and really this should come as no surprise given the background of Scientology and all their other symbols, including jacking and boas. The X Factor logo is clearly Stargate symbology. X marks the portal, and once again, hardly a surprise given the associations behind this program. The X-Files with its I and double X Stargate, and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, where yet again X marks the portal on the pyramid. And then there's the rhinestone cover, where polarity can be seen between the twin towers of Jackin and Boaz.